is it too late? Can we just start this year over again with these movies? Dear God. Oh, what a boring slog of a film. I'm gonna see if I can back out of here because the jackass next to me is at an angle, so I'm like, so I didn't expect much going into this, and I wasn't I was disappointed, but I guess I wasn't disappointed with how little substance to this movie there actually was. This movie's title should have been, hey, I remember that, the movie. That is what this is. The movie's marketing campaign, and this is why I was not really looking forward to seeing it, is basically built on this, come see, the T-Rex from Jurassic Park and King Kong and the Iron Giant and the car from Back to the Future and all this all in the same movie for some reason. And that is pretty much what the movie ends up being. Just a ton of Easter eggs and, ooh, look, I remember that. There's a ton of it piled onto it because at its core, there is nothing holding this movie together. This movie, if you strip away all of the big budget special effects, you strip away, which are remarkable. Make no mistake, the special effects are exquisite and they fit the story well. But when you strip all of that away, at its core, there is nothing. It is a story of bland characters going through a bland quest to take down a bland evil corporation. Basically it is, this film fits into that category of young adult Mad Libs. You just take the basic setup. Hello, my name is, I am fighting oppressive government or business blank for the control of blank with my wacky, sidekicks blank, blank, and blank, and blank. So, if you haven't heard of this movie, which, if you've missed the trailers, you're luckier than I am. So it's the near future, and, you can basically sing along with this. Certain places of the world are dystopias and bad. At least it's not after the apocalypse. So I'll give it that much credit, that for originality. At least it's not a post-apocalyptic thing. I do, the statement of, the world stopped trying to fix its problems. It was just trying to run away from them or outlive them or whatever. That's a different way to go, so I applaud that. But anyway, and the biggest thing in the world, since the world is such a shithole, is this magical, interactive, basically the internet. It's basically the internet from Futurama, where you can, put on special suits and go inside the internet, essentially, is what it is. And the creator of it, this really weird dude that everybody worships as some kind of god, and, thou shalt not speak ill of this guy. Before he died, left behind this little fetch quest video game, go through these challenges and win these 3 keys. And if you do, you get control of, the Oasis, which is what they call the internet, essentially. And so everybody's going for it. And of course, this kid from the slums is the one who gets there because he's just obsessed with the dude who created the place. And along the way, he gathers a ragtag team of, of fellow outcasts and weirdos and all this. And there's an evil corporation that wants control of it so they can, to do evil corporation things. I mean, there is... In terms of the story, there's nothing there. Nothing. And that is a problem. Not just in the fact that, hey, a story is what makes a movie or any kind of narrative happen. But, let's be fair. You can have a fun movie or a big thing without a great story. It's happened before. But the reason why not having a good, solid story with good characters and a good underlying, message or theme is because things like this that are rooted in nostalgia need that human connection. That is what nostalgia is. It is not just remembering something that existed. It is remembering what that thing meant to you, what it taught you, what it, when it came along in your development. That's what's important about nostalgia. And I would have thought that Steven Spielberg, of all people, would have known that. Because say what you want about Steven Spielberg and George Lucas and their blockbusters and whatnot, but Steven Spielberg and George Lucas are children of nostalgia. Their biggest hits are love letters to certain periods in time. But in this movie falls into the Stranger Things category, where it's just, remember 80s horror movies, or remember this, remember that. But there's nothing about it that speaks to you. Why did we remember this? Why was it? I mean, the whole movie, and I guess it makes sense because, the movie is about finding Easter eggs. I mean, that's what it's about at its core. This kid is able to solve all these clues and shit because he knows all these things about this guy, and he knows all the Easter eggs and whatnot. But the movie itself that's all it fucking is, can you spot all the Easter eggs? And clearly Steven Spielberg was having more fun planning Easter eggs everywhere than he was in telling any kind of story. For instance, it's amazing how many of them you find. In a way, it's kind of staggering just how many Easter eggs in there. And a meaning of the two villains, which, again, boring as shit villains. Boring as fucking shit. But the two villains meet in the Oasis, and the evil henchman, kind of the Darth Vader of the group, who I think had the voice of Ryan Reynolds. If not, it was either him or Chris Pratt, but it sounded like him either way. The Darth Vader of the villains brings the evil corporation guy like some magical talisman that they can use in the game, and the box he brings in is the same box that the dad brought Gizmo home in Gremlins. They have these VR helmets and everything, and on the side of one of them is the logo for the greatest American hero. So, I mean, for nerds like me, picking those out, I guess can be entertaining, but to me, I'm watching it going, it's the box from Gremlins. It's like, great, fine. What the fuck does any of this have to do with telling me this story? Seriously. What did any of it have to do with anything? Nothing. And it wasn't even fun to find them. Because it didn't feel like you were being rewarded for noticing, like that's what an Easter egg is supposed to do. It felt like you were just watching Steven Spielberg going, And yeah, there, in the big group scenes, there's all these, things from video games, or, the Battletoads were there, and the characters from Street Fighter. But honestly, those big group scenes go by so fucking fast, your eye can't follow on them. I did notice, and this made me really fucking mad. Of course, when they had the Ninja Turtles, when they had a couple players playing as Ninja Turtles, of course it was the Ninja Turtles from the shitty Michael Bay movie. I'm sorry. So, the movie that this kept reminding me of, or the film that I think did it better than this movie, was the Lego Movie, ironically. I kept thinking of the Lego Movie. Not just for the fact that it was a movie about a toy that a lot of people played with as a kid, but because that's another movie where there's just a lot of references and a lot of Easter eggs and a lot of, oh, look, now we're in Star Wars world, now we're in, Princess Unikitty, now we're here, now we're there, the scene with all the master builders, Michelangelo and Milhouse and the NBA All-Stars, so the movie kind of, Ready Player One kind of has that feel like the Lego movie had, where, yeah, it's a lot of, pop references, culture reference being thrown at you. But the difference between the two films is that the Lego movie had characters and a story and a moral at the end that was really, really effective. You want to know what this film's moral is? You know what this one is? Spend time in the real world. Friendship is magic. Take chances. Blah blah blah. Sign here. Basically, I have never been so fucking bored in a movie this gorgeous, this excitingly filmed, this much visual information, this many pop culture references that I should be just going ape shit over. I have never been so fucking bored in something that theoretically I should love. Now, is it all bad? No, it is not. There are some things that do work really well. I'll say it right off the bat. The end battle, the climactic battle scene is pretty engaging, and it is pretty cool because it's in the hands of one of the best directors ever. Watching Mechagodzilla fight the Iron Giant and Gundam, it's pretty fucking badass. And I think the only thing that kind of does save a lot of the nostalgia shots is, even if they're not things that Spielberg himself is nostalgic about, Spielberg, at least, again, he is a child of nostalgia. A lot of his visual style, a lot of his directing style, a lot of his storytelling styles are very nostalgic. You want an example of this? Look at Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park, the original, is basically a souped-up, more expensive version of one of the monster movies Spielberg went to in the 50s and 60s. I mean, or the 60s and 70s, I should say. So he is a child of nostalgia. So because of that, the nostalgia that's being presented in this film, it doesn't feel like it's condescending or that's doing it just to wring money out of me. I think he has a genuine respect for the nostalgia of others, even if it's not his nostalgia, which is not something you see in a lot of these nostalgia, cash grabs. Look at Transformers, Ninja Turtles, and the new Star Trek movies, made by people who outwardly admit they don't give a shit about the source material or what made these things popular. Spielberg, you can tell that is not the case with him. That all being said, and that all being true, again, there's just not a lot to hang your hat on. And again, theoretically, there should be a lot. There's a lot of great sequences. There's a great sequence, so a theoretically great sequence, I should say, where, the group of heroes, only 3 of which are really established well-ish as characters, as well as anybody in this movie is established as a character. They go to a movie theater in the Oasis that's showing The Shining, and it's like a recreation of The Shining in there, and that was really clever, and really well done. But it's, again, it had, because there was no substance to the story, it's like, okay, they're in The Shining. I really don't give a shit. Ugh, man. I guess, yeah, it's not going to be a great movie when, narration takes up a good 15 minutes of the of the film. The opening almost 15 minutes. I timed it, or tried to time it with my phone. I didn't want, but I'm estimating about 15 minutes. There's just nothing but narration of world building, where we are, when we are. And Spielberg's a better filmmaker than that. We didn't need all that. You could have showed us shit and we could have, gotten it. There must have been a better way to get all this world building across than, 15 damn minutes of narration. I mean, seriously. The other thing that this reminds me of that has kind of the same premise but is done a lot better is an anime. The only anime I like, actually, I am not a fan of anime, but the only anime I like, my best friend introduced me to, is called Sword Art Online, and it's this anime about this online game, very much in the Final Fantasy kind of, or World of Warcraft kind of vein, where all these people plug into it, and then the creator of the game, comes on and says, guess what? You've all been suckered. You're trapped here now. You can't unplug. You can't eject. You're trapped in this world now, and what happens here is going to affect you out there. If you die in here, you're going to die out there. And the first person to beat the game, well, then everybody can go home. But somebody has to beat the game. And so that's the premise that starts off the first half of the first season. And now that show used a lot of the premises that this thing is working off of in terms of its story and its world and all that to much greater effect. Who the characters chose as their avatars and why is important. Which games they chose to play is important to the characters. There's one girl in the second season who is afraid of guns because she was in a holdup when she was a little girl. So she goes into the virtual world to play a shooter game to try to get over her fear. So everything the characters do in the game and in their avatars in this make-believe world is somehow reflected of them and their personalities in the real world. And that's interesting. That's using this premise for more than just, oh, look, I remember Back to the Future. I remember Atari games. It's actually using it to tell us something about the characters, and they discover more than just, yay, friendship. And I never read the book this is based on, but I've heard that it's pretty bad. But, I don't know if I take anything like that seriously anymore. Everything's bad these days. At least if you listen to anything online, especially if you're listening to me right now. And I heard one review for this movie that says, they changed just about everything except for the kind of the core premise, to make this work as a movie. And that's fine, but they didn't change it enough. I think that they needed to tone down their nostalgia and focus a little bit more on the story. And you know what? And that is weird for me to say. Anybody who knows me knows I am just like everyone else, I am a child of my nostalgia. I am a nerd. I am a geek of that age now that worships the things that he loved as a child. There is a reason why I have never watched Transformers past Generation 1. There's a reason why I find the new Ninja Turtles movies to be almost sacrilegious. Hell, even in, watching wrestling, I love the Golden Age, the 90s, the Monday Night War. I am a child of nostalgia. I get it. I love my nostalgia. The wallpaper on my computer is, old things of Ninja Turtles and Transformers and He-Man and She-Ra. I, like everyone else, love my nostalgia. But in telling a story, it's okay to put that nostalgia in there and have that same feeling. Like I said, that's how we got Star Wars. That's how we got the Indiana Jones movies, the 3 good ones. Even now, you can even look at it now. I like, to a certain extent, all the 3 new Star Wars movies we've gotten: Rogue One, Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and these are all clearly made by people with nostalgia. So nostalgia is a good thing, and it's okay to let nostalgia be a creative voice, but there has to be more at the core of your story than just, oh, I remember that. That is the difference between making the Lego movie and making Pixels. And I hate to say it, I mean, this one is nowhere near as offensive, but this one is coming down a little bit more on the side of Pixels. It wants to be the Lego movie. It's aspiring to be the Lego movie, but in terms of story, character development, anything that keeps you emotionally engaged past the point of, oh, let me pay you money to remind me about things that existed, it's much more on the level of Pixels. It's disappointing. If you like going and playing Where's Waldo with all the things from your childhood that you loved and that they could get the rights to put in there, then you're gonna like this movie. And I maybe it's just me, but I could not get into this. It bored the shit out of me. And again, for a film that looks gorgeous, you know, maybe if you're one of those folks who just loves IMAX or loves 3D films, this probably looks fantastic in that. It may be very engaging, but I can't. I just can't. So, final grade for this one. I was gonna be a dick and say a D. I was gonna say that, but upon reflection, it's too well directed. And the visuals, even though there's no emotional attachment and no substance to any of the visuals, it's still very, very engaging, and the place looks beautiful. I just wish we could have slowed the camera down and actually seen the world and not just sped by it at 55 miles an hour. Again, hold on to the final grade for a second. Again, that's something else that, in terms of nostalgia, that's what made Jurassic Park great. You know why everybody loves Jurassic Park? Because everybody loved dinosaurs as a kid. Everybody is fascinated by dinosaurs. And so Jurassic Park doing what it did makes us all go, dinosaurs, that reminds me of being a kid. Anyway, I got sidetracked. So I was going to say a D, but I have to relent that a little bit. And I'm going to go final grade for this one is a C-. It's well directed. There's clearly talent and passion in it, but the story is weak as water. And quite frankly, nostalgia deserves better. If you're going to do a love letter to nostalgia, give it a great story. It's kind of sad. It's kind of sad when South Park's Imagination Land 3-parter, which takes popular characters and murders them, has, Strawberry Shortcake having her eye gouged out and, woodland critters peeing in the holes and all that. When that, 3-parter treated the nostalgia characters with a better plot, a stronger through line, and a more important message than just that thing was fun when it existed, I think you made a mistake in your movie somewhere. So C- for this one. Sorry, not sorry. The only thing I will say, the last kind of thing I want to say is the only reason I wanted this movie to be better is because the posters for it are really fun. When I go online and look for posters to use for the title cards and the intro page there, I have a lot of trouble finding stuff sometimes. This one had so many cool posters, done up in the style of other ones, and just looking at those, I was like, oh man, this is cool. I hope this movie's good because I like these posters. It wasn't. The posters were more fun than the movie. Yeah, so I can't. So 2018 continues its march towards mediocrity at the movies. So who knows? Maybe we can just hold out until Infinity War. We'll all be okay. So anyway, thanks for watching, and Lord hope something gets better at some point. So until next time, for Chewy and Mr. Chirpy, drive safe, and I will see you at the movies.